To tell us more about this and to give us his thinking, we're joined by Hugh Bennett, Deputy Editor of BrexitCentral. Good morning, Hugh.
Good morning.
What do we think is going on here? I mean, the clock is ticking and we're heading for falling off the cliff, aren't we?
Well, there's been a lot of bad-tempered exchanges so far. You look at both sides. There's been a real briefing war that's intensified over the last few days. The EU is accusing the UK of one thing, the UK sitting back with other accusations towards the EU. So I think it's clear there's a lot of posturing going on. I think when you actually look at the substance of what they're talking about, there's a lot of technical papers, actually, things that aren't attention-grabbing, that aren't headline-grabbing. But I think they are making a lot of progress on a lot of these sort of smaller technical issues that you don't see. But clearly the big disagreements remain, and the big disagreement is about money. I think the issue is that Britain, I think it accepts that it's going to have to settle its obligations at some point, but it doesn't want to commit to handing over a huge amount of money now because it knows it'll lose a lot of leverage in the negotiations if it does, whereas on the other hand, the EU is desperate to get hold of the UK's money as soon as possible, and so that's why I think that basically all of the shouting and arguments is basically a smokescreen for this dispute over the money.
It is not sad, Hugh, that it's about money. This means that the EU doesn't care about the economy. It doesn't care about.
Well, they care about their economy. They want the money we owe.
Yeah, but if we gave them 100 billion euros tomorrow, we would be able to negotiate and have anything we want. But they just are interested in our money, and I think that's very sad because while they're trying to get that, trade will suffer, and lots of the 27 countries now are very worried. The German Chamber of Commerce said the other day there was lots of uncertainty, and we needed to get that sorted. But they don't want to get it sorted. They just seem to want money, which I think is pretty sad.
Although we've waved goodbye to them, we've kind of said goodbye to partnership, economic continuity, and they must regard they must feel insulted.
It is. Well, I don't care if they're insulted. The people of this country voted to leave. So
I didn't.
It is that. Well, you might not, but a majority did, and it is our
4%.
democratic. It doesn't. You can say that as much as you want, but you wouldn't be saying if it was the other way
4%.
around. But the bottom line is we are leaving, and it is our people's right to leave if we want to. So it's not up to them to get all stroppy about it. It's up to them to make this process work, is it not, Hugh?
Yeah, no, I think you're right there. I think the real problem that people are running into is the fact that the way the EU negotiates is actually very constrained. You have Michel Barnier, who's officially the chief negotiator, but he can only actually negotiate within the guidelines that have been handed to him by the European Council. That's member state leaders. That they're basically waiting for Angela Merkel to get re-elected next month before they can make any big changes in their position or anything. So even if the EU does want to compromise on the timing, I think that their hands are tied to some extent.
And do you think they're focusing on the, shall we say, slightly troubled situation of the Prime Minister leading a minority government? We've had Labour now over the weekend in the form of Keir Starmer talk about perhaps being able to remain somehow in the open market, certainly for a longer period than the government's suggesting. Do you think they're sensing disarray here, which there certainly is, and maybe the prospect of another general election and them dealing in the future with Labour?
Well, when you look at the EU, this is an organisation which is constantly dealing with disputes with member states. You only have to go back a few years to remember the huge fights with Greece over what was going to happen with Greek debt. The Commission is very experienced at spinning a media strategy and making it look like the Commission is reasonable. Yet throughout this whole process, Juncker's being treated as if he's some sort of grand prophet who's handing down infallible pronouncements on tablets of stone. Ultimately, he's on the EU side. They've got an agenda as much as the Brits do. I think they're just very good at playing this game of making it look like member states aren't getting anywhere. Because it's constantly engaged in this horse trading between member states, and I think they're trying to run Britain around the.
Hugh, you mentioned Greece there, and do you remember the finance minister Yanis Varoufakis? He said at the time that rather than try to negotiate a settlement and a way of repaying the money, the EU were just being absolutely inflexible, and they're doing exactly the same to us, which is why the paper said Mrs May is now going to go above Barnier's head and go to Macron and Merkel to try and settle this divorce bill. Is that a good idea?
Well, I think it's certainly something she has to try. I think the EU is very good at saying, we can't do that. You've got to go and talk to someone else, and then obviously, someone else, whether it's Merkel or Macron, will say, no, you have to go back and talk to Juncker. So I think they're very good at playing this game. I think they're very good at actually making it look like things are going very badly in order to try and get the concessions they want.
But it is them making it go badly, isn't it? It's not the British government. It's them that's making it go badly.
Well, I think when you look at the issues that the EU's actually demarcated for the first stage of the negotiations, you've got the financial settlement, you've got citizens' rights, and you've got the Irish border. Juncker is going on about the UK not being prepared. The EU hasn't even published a position paper on Northern Ireland. It's identified it as one of 3 key areas, and it has not even said what its proposals are.
Because it's our problem, though, Hugh. It's not their problem. We voted to leave in the majority. I'm perfectly happy we've got to accept that, but actually it's our problem. It's a problem of our making.
And that's why Britain's proposing an incredibly detailed position paper. But the EU has taken this attitude. They've said we've been clear and transparent from day one. We've been totally prepared from day one. We've put all of our proposals on the table. That's simply a lie. They have not put their proposals for Northern Ireland on the table, and yet they're sort of saying this is one of the key areas that they want to be sorted by October before we talk about trade. And quite how they want to talk about how the Irish border is going to function without talking about how trade and goods are going to move across it, I really don't know, which probably explains why they haven't been able to publish a paper, because they recognise that contradiction. But anyway, that's
the bottom line is they don't want these discussions to succeed, do they? I mean, remember we offered EU citizens the same right as British citizens. Barnier said even that wasn't enough. I mean, what more can we do?
No, I think. There's obviously still a lot of, there's a lot of, a bit of bad blood between the UK and the EU side. We are leaving. We have jilted them to that extent. I think that at the same time, they don't want to. They don't want a situation where it looks like Britain keeps all of what they see as the advantages of EU membership and not. So I think that they're stuck between a lot of different issues. On the one hand, you have their political concerns. On the other hand, you actually have businesses across the continent, as we said, the German Chamber of Commerce. You've got wondering people, particularly in countries like Ireland, the Netherlands, Belgium, that have hugely close trade links with the UK, and they're saying, come on, please get on and talking about trade. This is affecting us as much as it's affecting people in the UK, and we need the EU to start taking a more flexible approach and actually deal with these things that matter to businesses, and they need to be starting to make decisions about now.
Thank you very much for your time this morning, Hugh Bennett there from Brexit Central.